Hey everybody, another really fun build I've come up with here today. This time I wanted to make a build that could guarantee the charged Moonlight punish on a stagger punish with Basho arms and still using a VE generator to enhance the Moonlight. So basically just to make an outrageous punish possible on a build. So let's go ahead and load it up. I'm calling it Arachnid, and it just kind of makes a lot of sense with running double Aurora missiles, as you can see on the back, because it basically makes like 8 legs that come at you. And it also skitters around very much like you'd expect an Arachnid. So let's jump into the test environment, take a look at the parts, and discuss how to do the combos. Okay, so one thing to note, we'll just start off with the arms and like the weapon loadout and how this works to set up the combo. So essentially, one really nice thing about both the Moonlight and the Auroras is that they're 100% a cumulative impact conversion from their impact values. This means that you don't have to worry about impact decay. Anytime you hit somebody with these, it's going to apply the impact and it's going to entirely stick. So this build is, in addition to using the lamb legs to be extremely mobile and evasive and skittering around the map, we have a very gradual and controlled level of impact buildup, allowing us to get them within a hair's breadth of getting stagger without accidentally proccing it. So you can use the worker as just a poke at long range if you haven't landed a missile in a bit, just to make sure that their impact gets reset. And also, surprisingly, the worker isn't bad at building up a cumulative impact either. It's another 144 there. So just be careful you don't accidentally proc it, because the goal with this build is to get them just about staggered, and then to have both missiles reloaded and locked on, stagger fire them, and then start charging the Moonlight, and the missiles will stagger them delayed and give you enough time to finish the Moonlight while making these missiles still extremely reliable. The nice thing about them is they are pretty reliable, at least hitting a little bit, and so unless you're up against some very evasive builds, which you won't be going for the charged Moonlight punish anyways, it's really reliable for setting up the charged Moonlight in a controlled and timed manner that you can predict. The worker also functions as our defensive get off me tool for builds that rush us down. So if you're running out of energy and you can't evade anymore despite the gills, super evasive playstyle, you've always got the worker in the back pocket to do a charge attack and mini stun them and hopefully completely stagger them. And then you can do a double Moonlight punish. The other alternative is if you stagger them with a double Moonlight slash, like for lightweights, you can go into a charged worker punish. So they both synergize with each other very well. For lightweights, you really don't ever go for the charged Moonlight punish. You're just going to try to take them down as quick as possible. So that's more for just heavier builds where you just need a more meaty punish. Okay, I'll come back to the parts. I guess the head and the core are pretty sensible. These are just the ones that I can operate on the lamb legs while giving good EN supply efficiency. Reasonable boost efficiency, it's not terrible. And as much stability and EN supply efficiency as I could cram in. The gills we're using for the QB reload time, we want to be really evasive to help us, and also a great way to create space in order to help us with our EN recharge delay of 1.76 seconds. Now, granted, depending on the matchup type, you'll either play higher up in the air or closer to the ground, depending on what's more important. Draining their energy so they can't chase down so efficiently, or is it better to be closer to the ground so that you get your energy back as quickly as possible, because you're not going to ever have to worry about drop time. Notice our boost speed is quite good, by the way, and that's because we're running the gills, so we actually are not too slow on the ground even when we're not in hover mode, but still you are going to want to rely on the gills QB spam to create space when needed. But for things like kites or anything where you can use height to your advantage, like if they have lots of missiles, you want to just passively dodge them, you can take the lamb has a good jump height distance. I usually go a little bit more up, and now we're getting a lot more speed at 370. So at this point we can passively dodge a lot of different missile types, either by our speed or just by dropping down and then going back into hover mode. For the FCS, we basically just want to maximize our Aurora missiles, and so we're going to run this one, and this also is complemented by the fact that the Moonlight doesn't really need FCS tracking, and the charged worker really doesn't either. It's just so reliable because of the wide hitbox at close range. That said, you will be poking at long range when resetting impact, so that they don't start to recover their impact built up that you've done with the missiles and the Moonlight. But the worker doesn't really need to hit all that hard, it just needs to hit them a little bit. And so the spread on it will take care of that for you. The FCS does not really become a major factor in making that possible. As for the generator, we needed capacity and good EN supply efficiency, so the most damage in energy firearm spec we could get away with was this generator on a Tetra. Would have been nice to make the 20B work, but it's just not feasible with the amount of energy weapons I'm running. It's just not going to happen, not even close. So that's why we run that. As for assault armor, this gives us an emergency stagger punish option. So for things like terminal armors and whatnot, where our charged Wurger or our Moonlight punish, whichever one is the punish, doesn't do quite enough damage, assault armor is really good for just getting a massive burst of damage added on. It also helps counter melee builds because we can counter their assault armor just by QBing away with how fast we are, and or by activating assault boost. I just find assault armor is really useful for lightweights in general. Any fragile build where you can't afford to trade health for too long, I find assault armor is just a really good option over pulse armor most of the time. Okay, so that's basically how the build works. Let's jump into some PvP matches and see how it goes. So this match is against a really solid player who's playing a build that's going to be very difficult to play with this build. Any super lightweights can dodge the Aurora missiles a lot better than other builds, and going for passive impact built up with the Etzigen is a major threat. I figured out in the third round, but actually going above lightweights, especially Alula's especially Alula users, because they don't really have great upward thrust, is a great way to make the missiles extremely expensive to dodge, and also if they want to chase you up to try to equalize and make it easier to dodge them, once they run out of energy and have to go down to the ground, basically your salvo's almost guaranteed at that point. So you'll see, though, even before round 3, that the Wurger and the Moonlight both function as extremely good spacing tools. So the charged Moonlight forces them to suddenly stop rushing you down. So anyone who's running melee weapons, the charged Moonlight is going to be solid for that. The Wurger also having a mini stun is also just going to double up. So if one of them misses, the other one's ready to go as well. And then if one staggers, the other one also can do that as well. So yeah, this match, you'll notice I'm trying to use air a bit more here. I don't go high enough, but I figured it out by the end. This is also another example of when you really want assault armor, and oftentimes it's just to finish off that last bit of health when the fight's getting down to the wire. So because it's just like it's almost impossible to dodge unless they get out of range rapidly, it's usually at least a little bit of damage guaranteed, and that matters a lot for lightweights. So we can use this one to either get a free stagger into charged Wurger punish on some builds where that'll just end the fight. We can use it into assault armor just to chip off a lightweight that's playing at medium range with like Etzigens, and we just need a little bit more damage to finish the fight. It's got a lot. We can cancel pulse armors, which a lot of times, and then also do it with some damage, which also is really deadly against lightweights too. And those are going to be our primary matches that are very difficult to handle. And I think I might have mentioned it already, but you want to try to not fire your Auroras at the same time for 2 reasons. A, it's easier to dodge them if you do that, but B, it also makes sure that you're hitting them at different times, and so the impact meter is getting refreshed and not so dependent on your Wurger. You do want to save the Wurger as more of an emergency option, as you don't want to be close to your targets if you can help it. It's better to just let the Aurora missiles do the majority of the legwork for you. So here you'll just see how much of a difference the gaining height above them makes in terms of complicating dodging missiles, and also just making it super EN expensive to try to get in range with the Etzigen. These missiles become much more reliable now. He could go underneath the bridge, but I can drop and reposition and fire Aurora missiles from the side too. That's what I would be doing if I were him, but it also complicates his offense if he's trying to hide under the bridge so much. So, and I guess hence the dilemma. This match is definitely more of a Rushdown build. With the Coral Blade, that's going to give us a really strong option with our 2 hand weapons. So I would like to land the charged Moonlight first and then save the Worker for follow-up whenever possible in those cases. Just because when they're still at range, that's when you're going to be safer to do the charged Moonlight. Once they close the gap, it becomes pretty risky to try to go for it unless you've recreated space with a QB spam using the gills. But you'll see it's very difficult to approach this build. But you can't stay at range either because your Aurora missiles are just going to start chipping away too. Depending on their missile loadout, there are some matchups though that you might have to play the aggressor, but that's fine. This build is good at that too with the mini stun on the Worker, and you do have access to kicks, but I wouldn't get too greedy with them. Again, they're extremely vulnerable for a Lammer guy or if you miss. But yeah, just having, and then also if for really close range builds where you have to be the offense, I would caution against using the Moonlights too aggressively. Keep in mind every Moonlight swing holds you still. So, here I set up the Aurora punish, by the way, with the charged Moonlight. You can see just how absurd that amount of damage is. So looking at this opponent's build, the homing missiles are a very big threat for Tetras just because they tend to fly like at a level, and so the homing missiles oftentimes can become a real nuisance. You really got to focus on cutting the angle sharply and making sure you break the lock on the homing when it's near when it's close to you, and instead of just sort of like kind of drift or out of range or like at a softer angle where it can come back. But yeah, with longer range focus or pokes on this opponent, like the Duckhead and the Rensetsu, I am going to have to play a little bit closer just so that I don't get chipped away by the Rensetsu and the Duckhead. But because they're fragile, that means my Worker is much more deadly too. So we switch to a more offensive playstyle. not much to say here. Pretty standard Pulse Blade Zimmerman with a Huxley for impact maintenance build and lightweight. So we're going to be looking to try to land a Charge Moonlight and effectively delete their health bar, whether it's in a stagger or not. This Charge Moonlight is very scary against lightweights. They one mistake and they can lose pretty much all their health. The best time to aim for it is usually when they're doing their melee lunge, just because they can't change their height very quickly. They have to either QB cancel to the side or activate Assault Boost, both of which will buy you more time to keep them level, so the margin of error is quite slim there. And a very solid double melee player here. I was chatting with them yesterday. Apparently they were in the top, like just under, or just over 100 on the leaderboards last patch. So this build though is quite dependent on landing the combo. Pulse Blade linear rifle I think is often just handicapped against so many different builds and certain weapon types. In this case, our Wurger is going to be a major deterrent as well as the Moonlight. It's going to really shut down the ability to approach with the Pulse Blade, even with a really strong player. Oh, it looks like I was running Pulse Armor on this match. I would not recommend that. I think I probably was still testing this build to see what was better.
AP at 50%.
Should also mention that against this particular setup, with the ability to instant combo and then go into an immediate pile bunker charge punish, I won't even have time to do assault armor a lot of the times. I cannot open with the charge Moonlight as the combo is just a one shot, so and there's no time to like even expansion, so you have to try to intercept the charge Wurger and then save the Moonlight for the punish. Pile bunker doesn't leave much room just because it's one of the only melee weapons that can punish before pulse armor, and a lot of times even assault armor can deploy if they're really quick with the light lunge into QB cancel into charge up pile bunker. Case in point there, you just don't have the option to charge Moonlight against the pile bunker. It just can always close the gap super fast with a light lunge into charge attack combo. You'll notice my height play is designed to make it so that as soon as I touch the ground, my battery starts regenerating, like the activation for the recharge starts, so that there's a minimal time wasted where it's regenning, but very slowly because I'm still falling. Alright, so already at this point I'm getting this opponent close to stagger, so I know I need to try to set up a situation where I can get both the roars up, which I get right here, into a charged Moonlight for the finish. So, it's not as hard as it might sound. Okay, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, then like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more Armored Core content.